Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Deep Threat Sports Network. For the most part tonight, again, it's going to be me on the sidelines, but you guys are in great hands yet again. I have Ron and Bryant with me tonight, and they are going to take care of all of yours and our needs together, talking about this big Week 6 slate we have coming up. Tonight's episode, you know how it goes by now if you're following with us. If you're new with us, we're going to explain it real quick. We have the main game preview that we do, which this week we're going to have 4 games on that. And then we have our quickie segment as always. We have 4 games on that for you. And then we have the book it / fade it segment that we're going to get rocking with here. And I'm just telling you, it's looking like it's on the come up. I don't want to jinx it too much, but that book it segment, fade it segment's making a comeback. And don't count us out yet because it's time to make some money. And if you're with us last week, we went 7-4, and that was a fantastic week that we had. But real quick, I'm going to kick it over to these fellas. And like I said, you're going to get mostly Ron and Bryant tonight. So Ron, Bryant, fellas, how we doing? And what are you most excited for about Week 6?
Doing good, man. There's not quite as load of a slate as there was last week, but still some exciting games. And there's a couple games we're going to talk about I feel like are must-win games for both teams. So that'll be interesting to see what happens in those games. But excited to have some more college football to watch this weekend.
Yeah, likewise, Brian. I'm good to be back with you guys again tonight. I think my most exciting game this weekend is at Florida State, Miami. Getting back to the old school days, so I'm really looking forward to that one on Saturday night.
Yeah, looking for a big answer from Florida State this week, and they need to get that game done, especially there at home. Going to be a jam-packed environment. So, fellas, let's waste no time. Let's get right into this thing then, since we don't have much more that we would like to break down here in the beginning of this episode. Let's just get rocking real quick. And the first game that these two are going to break down for you is Texas at Florida. Texas sitting at -6, and I actually think that line just moved right before we came on the show down to 4. Big line movement there. This line was from this morning at Texas -6.5. It is now Texas -4.5. Over under, I still believe, floating around 43.5. That game is Saturday the 4th at 2:30 p.m. on ESPN. Texas 3-1, Florida 1-3. Ron, tell me what you got down and what you're looking for in this football game.
Well, we were talking earlier. It's a must-win for both teams. I think Napier has a lot more to lose because he's been on the hot seat with the start that they have at 1-3. I think this game's going to come down to quarterback play. We obviously talked about Lagway on this show quite a bit. 5 touchdowns, 6 picks this year. He's actually 67% completion rate, but he's just not making the big plays like he did last year. And then, of course, there's Arch Manning. Like, so much hype on him coming into the year. He's having an okay year, 61% completion rate, 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. But he hasn't shown, like, the pedigree that everybody expected out of him this year. So which one of those guys is going to show up? Is it the real Arch Manning, or are we going to see Lagway from some of the moments he had last year when he busted on the scene? So it's going to be a great game, I think. Third down, we talked about that last night on the show quite a bit. Both teams are horrendous on third down conversion. So you're going to see a lot of hopefully what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of big plays, because I think possession of the ball and maintaining those drives is going to be something you're not going to see much of.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, what do you got down?
This is an absolute must-win game for both teams, like Ron mentioned, especially Florida, but Texas as well. They had a close game with Ohio State early, but we haven't really seen a whole lot from them in their other 3 games either. Even though they were cakewalk, easy win type games, they still had some question marks coming out of those games that they need to show out and fix in this game. I'm going to start with Florida. On the offensive side of the ball, they got to be able to get the run game going to open up the offense and take the pressure off of Lagway. We talked about them all off season and how good their offensive line should have been. They haven't shown that yet. Can they kind of come together a little bit in this game and maybe start getting on a roll on the ground and opening up that offense? Because their defense is giving them a shot. But, man, those boys have gotten worn down in all 4 of their games, and it showed late in those games with losing them in 3 out of the 4, just getting too tired and not being able to get off the field. So the offense has to step up for Florida. And they've had different issues in each loss with turnovers or penalties or you name it with them that just bit them in the butt every time they've lost. So can they put something together this week? On the Texas side, Ron hit it on the nail on the head there. What Arch Manning are we going to see? Is he going to step up and be the guy that was talked about all off season, or is he going to continue the guy that's going to be a little bit kind of mid? It seems like maybe not being able to take the top off of defenses. And kind of being a middle tier SEC quarterback rather than top tier like we expected. As far as on the offensive side of the ball with them, it starts with Arch, but they got to be better on third down and avoid penalties. They're the second most penalized team in the SEC, which is quite shocking. I feel like Steve Sarkisian is a good coach and would kind of bottle that up, but he really hasn't. So we'll see what goes there. Not worried about Texas's defense. I think they're just as stacked as any defense in this league. They just haven't had really – the only time they had a chance to show out, which I think they did pretty well against Ohio State, and the rest of the games they were kind of just in cruise control. So I think this game is going to be quite low scoring. The over-under is kind of right there with that. But it's going to be closer than expected. I think Texas does have a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, I would agree that Texas has a slight edge here. Some of the things that I want to talk about before we move on from this game is question for you two. Is Napier still the coach if Florida loses this game? Like, does he get removed from head coaching duties shortly after this football game if they lose?
I think if it's close and it's a competitive game, no. But if they lose like 35-10, he's gone.
Yeah, and also one other thing I meant to touch on: the last 3 games, Florida hasn't scored over 16 points, and now you're coming up against the Texas defense, which is probably top 5 or 10 in the country. Like, this doesn't bode well for them. So, and their schedule down the road, obviously being in the SEC, isn't much better. So I kind of agree with Bryant. If they get walked on Saturday, there's a really good chance he's not here come Sunday. But
I think it's win or bust for Napier. I think if they lose a 1-point game to a last-second field goal, I think it's done. I mean, because at this point it's been, well, you know, we've played tough opponents, cutting some slack. He's going to find it. Okay, so you lose again, and then next week it's the same thing. Like, I think Florida's on quit watch. I think if Texas gets up and gets going early, I think Florida's definitely on quit watch. There's only so much life that defense can keep having before they just realize that they're playing for nothing. That's one reason why I like Texas here. Also, this is a really under the radar game right now, because if rewind 7 weeks ago, this was probably one of the most anticipated football games of the season. And seeing Texas go to the Swamp, and now this game's just kind of like both teams honestly look like shit, and which one looks like less shit in this game wins the football game. That's really what this is right now, but Texas is still getting the love because their record's 3-1. Florida's played tough opponents, and they're 1-3. That's where you're at with this football game. Also, the last 2 things I want to say, and then I'm moving on because it doesn't feel great, is Florida has no skill players. I think they are decimated and ass at all skill positions. I've said that before. And also both teams are ass at third down. Notice I said there's a lot of ass in this football game. It's going to take a miracle for one of these 2 teams to really nut up and figure it out. So that's where I'm at with this football game, fellas. Anything else on this one?
If you would have told me Texas was -4 going 8 weeks ago, I was like, man, both those teams are really good, playing at a high level. This is going to be a fun game to watch. It's kind of the total opposite, but the line's still there, so that makes it even more intriguing.
Yes, you're 100% right. -4, we would have thought Florida was 4-0, Texas was 4-0, and have an absolute slugfest, like with an over/under of 58.5. But no, the over/under is 43.5. So just tune in and see which team figures it out. The next football game that we are going to talk about here is Vanderbilt at Alabama. Alabama sitting at -10.5, over/under 56.5. You can get it on some books at 54.5. Some books are 57.5. We have a new catchphrase for you that we're going to mention later that has to do with a lot of the book shopping. This game is also Saturday the 4th, 2:30 p.m. on ABC. Vandy 5-0, Alabama 3-1. Revenge game for Alabama. This game's at Bryant-Denny. Bryant, tell me what you're seeing in this football game.
Man, this has got to be the biggest game for Vanderbilt. In my note here, I got probably decades. Diego's been talking a lot of shit this past week. Can he back it up? We already saw a quarterback earlier in the season talk a bunch of shit against Alabama and back it up. So let's see if he can do that this time around. I'll start with Vandy. on the offensive side of the ball, they've been absolutely everything you want them to be. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, they've been running the ball well. Diego's been making plays with his legs as expected and has been a proficient passer, distributing the ball all over the field, especially to his really good tight end and Eli Stowers. So if you see that continues. On the defensive side of the ball, their defensive line has been their strong suit. They've been in the opponent's backfield a bunch this season, making a bunch of plays, whether it's sacks, TFLs, or just disrupting the play. But their secondary, personally, is not all that good. So we'll see if Alabama can take advantage of that. On Alabama's side, I don't have really much of an issue with their defense. They've been okay this season. I think they look better against Georgia. They're going to stop the run, but they've had some issues with stopping the pass. And so we'll see if they'll be able to kind of limit Diego there and also try to keep him in the pocket at the same time. On the offensive side of the ball, they're finally seeming to get it going. We've talked a bunch the past couple of weeks about Ty Simpson and how good we think he's played. Let's see if he can continue that, if they can get the run game going a little bit more now that they got Jam Miller back after another week of getting him going last week. So excited to see this game. I personally think this is going to be a massive revenge game for Bama, like you mentioned. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a raucous crowd down there in Tuscaloosa. This is going to be an exciting game. Kind of the opposite of what we thought Texas and Florida was going to be. We thought this might be a snooze fest to begin the season, but this is going to be one of the better games of the weekend.
Credit to Vandy for answering all the questions coming into the season if they can do it again. I mean, honestly, they're doing spectacular things. Ron, what do you got in this football game?
Well, you guys touched on a couple of things. It's obviously a revenge game. That's where all the hype is going into this weekend after what the Vandy did to Bama last year. Earlier in the show when we started, you asked, what am I excited about this weekend? These two quarterbacks, potential Heisman candidates, right? They have both played very well this year, and I think the winner of this game, whoever puts up the best numbers, who can lead their team, will probably edge ahead. Will obviously edge ahead of them and put himself in a conversation of maybe being one of those finalists at the end of the year. Pavia, you guys are right. Somebody smack talked Bama earlier this year and they backed it up. But generally speaking, in my opinion, that usually just creates billboard material for Bama in the locker room. DeBoer has to be hanging up that comment all over the place. It's going to give Bama a little extra motivation, in my opinion. Vanderbilt on offense, excellent third down team. I think they're 60 or 61% conversion rate, very balanced on both passing and rushing from an offensive standpoint. Pavia leads the team in rushing. So, you don't want to see that, but as long as he's producing, it's not a bad thing. He's been doing it all year and all of last year as well. On the Bama side of the ball, 3 stud receivers for Simpson to throw to. They're putting up 320 plus yards a game. I think the key is going to be if Jam Miller can step up and produce a little more, that's going to help open up that passing game as well. So this should be a shootout, boys. I love the 56.5 over. I think it's going to be an exciting game for sure.
I got one thing I forgot to add real quick. Vandy really hasn't been able to defend the pass at all this season in any of their game. And this is by far the best passing attack they have seen. So I think Ty Simpson's going to have himself a day slinging the rock around the field. He's got all the weapons.
This is one of the best passing attacks in the country.
Yes.
If not the best. They may not fill all the statistics to be statistically number one, but when it comes to eye test and quarterback getting the ball in people's hands when they're open and having the timing down, this is it, dude. And that's the one reason why. I'm all in on Bama everything in this football game. Team total over, Bama to cover. It is setting up Alabama to make a statement in this football game. And if they don't, this is another conversation we're going to have about DeBoer, because this is the games that you can't lose. These are the games you got to make a statement in. Also, one thing about Kalen DeBoer while I'm on him, he has really struggled as a head coach against mobile quarterbacks. Mobile quarterbacks kick his ass. This is one thing that he has to prove right here is, hey, we got a good plan. I let my defensive coordinator and I let my defense get a good game plan on how to stop Pavia. You cannot let him play hero ball. That's what he wants to do. He wants to have a top 10 highlight mixtape on ESPN come Monday morning on SportsCenter. This is what he wants. You cannot let him do that. So whenever you rush him, you cannot rush from the inside. You have to rush outside in and keep him in the pocket. You don't want to rush inside, let him get loose on the outside and play that hero ball. Ron is right. He is their leading rusher, but Cedric Alexander is a good running back for Vanderbilt. Yeah. Let's not forget about that guy. He is nasty with it. So when you just see Bama's D-line, they do have another injury. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. I think he's out in this game. So when you just see this D-line, step up and be big. Generate a good pass rush, keep it clean, have a spy on Pavia the whole game. Last thing on this game for me, neither defense this season has stopped a team from goal to go from a touchdown. Every time a team has been goal to go, they score a touchdown on both these teams. So red zone defense is going to play key in this football game. Also, that stat right there is another reason why you should take the over.
Yeah. Not many field goals in this game. Is it me or does Pavia kind of remind you guys of Johnny Football? A little bit?
Yeah, they've been hanging out too.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, yes.
Johnny, he's starting to get that way, but he's also playing like Johnny Football. He can sling it.
I think the biggest difference is Pavia's like 24, and Johnny Manziel is doing that shit at like 19.
Yeah. Well, one more comment on this.
Like when you're 24 playing college football and it's like your sixth season, you should have it figured out.
Yeah,
Johnny was probably making more money back then than Pavia is right now with NIL.
Yeah, for sure. Under the table. Yeah. Well, if you would have told me 7 weeks ago that should Vandy somehow pull this game off, right? They're a double-digit underdog. Had you told me that that Vandy would be 6-0 and Bama would be 3-2, you probably would have laughed at me, right? That's how big of a game this is for Bama, right? To stay alive in that SEC hunt.
Yeah, they have to avoid that 3-2. They got it. I mean, after beating Georgia, man, the SEC is in their hands. Like they just got to not drop a bullshit game like this, and not to discount Vandy because they're doing great things, but on paper, that you outmatch them at every position. Seriously. I would take the only position I would take Vandy over Bama is tight end, and I would take Eli Stowers over most tight ends in the country other than Kenyon Sadiq at Oregon. Outside of that, I'm taking Stowers over everybody else. So every other position, I'm taking Bama. Maybe not kicker. They have shitty
not kicker.
Yeah. This should be a fun game.
You don't want to use the kicker this game. So
this should be a fun game to watch, boys. Tune into this one. There's going to be a lot of scoring here, I think.
Yes. The next game that Ron and Bryant are going to break down for you is Mississippi State at Texas A&M. minus 15.5, over under 57.5. This game is Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on SEC Network. College Station, big environment. A&M 4-0, Mississippi State 4-1. Mississippi State arguably could be 5-0. And what do we need to see A&M do, boys, to protect home field and win this football game? Ron, what do you got?
Well, their defense has given up 24 a game. Now, 40 of those was against Notre Dame, who's obviously found their offense of late. But, they rank 112th in points allowed. So that doesn't bode well for A&M. The fact that they're at home is good. Obviously, Kyle Field, College Station's a nasty place to play. You're going to have 106,000 people in that stadium on Saturday night. But, Mississippi State, Hail State, give them credit. 4-1. Like a lot of people didn't think they were even going to have a chance to compete in the SEC this year. What a surprise season they're having. I've been down to Hail State a couple of times. Those fans are a little bit nuts with their cowbells like we talked about last night on the show. But Mississippi State's got to stay away from the big plays. They can score. They're putting up 38 points a game, but they can't give up the big scores, the big plays, the explosive plays. And unfortunately, you got A&M in there with two fantastic receivers. Concepcion was the household name now, but Mario Craver stepped up, and he leads the team in catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns. So that's a two-headed monster that Hail State's going to have to try to figure out how to stop. And then, of course, Le'Veon Bell's been just tearing it up on the ground the last couple of weeks. So
I like that nickname, Le'Veon Moss. I like the nickname Le'Veon Bell, though.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell. I mean, that's who he looks like, right? When he runs
like
shoe fits.
He's a horse, right? So Le'Veon's going to carry the load in the backfield. Marcel Reed obviously is a dual threat. So Hail State's going to have their hands full when it comes to stopping the A&M offense. And I think the biggest key is, can they limit the big plays and try to keep this game close? 2 touchdown plus favorite for A&M. I think Mississippi State's going to have a big challenge on the road.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Ron. I'll start with Mississippi State. On the offensive side of the ball, they have not been playing too bad. Blake Shapen had a subpar game last week, but he overall has had a pretty good season. And they've had a really good success on the ground with Bothwell and Booth. So if they can keep that going and Shapen can kind of, tidy up the turnovers and continue to move the ball downfield like he did earlier on in the season, they might be able to have some success. As far as defense, though, man, that's the biggest question mark. They do not get in the backfield whatsoever. Can they find that in this game? We'll see. Texas A&M's offensive line is very good. And Mississippi State also has a tough time covering receivers. And we got 2 studs on the other side of the ball. They're going to be hard to cover. So looking to see that's going to be the biggest question mark in this game, is that Mississippi State defense. On the A&M side, don't really have any question marks on offense. Can they keep it rolling with Moss? Marcel Reed's playing just fine, and those receivers are doing what they need to do to make plays, and we've seen it a bunch this season already. The same way on defense. They have one of the better defensive lines in the league, and their back 5 are just as good as their front 7. So we'll see what happens. I'm right there with Ron. I think this possibly could be a little bit of a trap game for Texas A&M, but I don't see it happening. I think they're going to have not an easy game, but I think they'll comfortably win.
I think I'll be honest, but I think A&M handles business here. I think the biggest thing Mississippi State's used to their advantage is the cowbells at home this season. In all honesty, both their big games have been at home, and I think when you flip that script and you give Blake Shapen this kind of environment, I don't like it, man. I'm not sold on Blake Shapen. I never have been. I know he's been playing okay. We saw a little bit more of reality of Blake Shapen last week. I think this A&M defense is vastly underrated right now. I think they're highly exceeding expectations. I think they generate a pass rush and they get Shapen off his mark and super uncomfortable the whole entire football game. And I just don't see a world where Mississippi State stops Le'Veon Bell Moss or Mario Craver or KC Concepcion or Marcel Reed himself. There's not a world where this happens. Like you saw Mississippi State thrive in the Arizona State game because they could slowly kind of pick on Jordan Tyson and just kind of stop Jordan Tyson. And they still weren't the best at that. We got 2 receivers that are just a touch below Jordan Tyson's talent level, but you got 2 of them now with a better run game and arguably just as good of a quarterback. So I just don't see it. I think the environment in A&M, I think they have their way.
Yeah, there's a lot of matchup problems for Hail State. They just have to try to limit it, right? Try to contain it and hang in this game, because it's going to be a tough task.
It's damage control from the kickoff. It's limit explosive plays, keep the receivers in front of you. Mississippi State needs to understand that A&M is going to complete passes and have some chunk plays, but keep them in front of you and don't let them get behind you and crack one off on a 2-play drive for 75 yards. It's keep it in front of you, and when you get the ball back on offense, run the shit out of the ball, help you get some first downs, make it third and manageable, and limit A&M's possessions. That's what they have to do.
Yep, agree.
Anything else for you fellas in this game?
I'm good.
All right, fellas. The next game that we're going to talk about is maybe the biggest game of the whole entire weekend. Did we? Oh yeah, we're rocking and rolling. This is our 4th one already. Boys, you guys are moving. All right, fellas, this is it. Miami at Florida State. Miami minus 4.5. Over under 54.5. This game Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Bryant, what are you looking for in this football game? It's honestly probably a miracle that no one's not with us tonight and has wedding stuff going on, because this would be a 35-minute segment based on no one's notes right now. So, Bryant, give it to me.
I wish our audience could see the list of notes he has in here. It's like
give me the Spark Notes edition of Nolan's book.
I'm going to talk about my notes, and then I'll jump to his real quick and give Spark Notes because he's got a lot here. I think this game has big ACC implications. I think Florida State's still in there, and Miami's probably in the driver's seat. So there's a lot on the line there. This is a must-win for Florida State, in my opinion. So we'll see if they can respond from a tough loss last week and get back on the wagon. On the offensive side of the ball for them, I think they played really well. I don't think they did anything wrong against Virginia last week. Can they continue that against Miami? We will see. On the defensive side of the ball, I really also didn't think they played that well either. They just were not able to tackle anybody yet last week, and it showed. They were getting 10-plus yards after contact, it seemed like almost every time. So if they can shore that up, they'll have a better week, hopefully. On the flip side, Miami, man, they really haven't had any question marks at all this season on either side of the ball. Their line play on both sides is elite. Carson Beck has been really good, and then their backside on their defense has also been good. The only thing that maybe has a little bit of an edge against this Miami offense for Florida State is they've been actually really good this season at turning over with interceptions. And Beck, I don't know about you guys, but he looks a little reckless sometimes and just kind of says screw it and throws the ball down there and hopes this guy catches it. So maybe they can take advantage of that. The catalyst in this game, I think, though, is who can run the ball best and control possession and time possession in this game and be able to establish the run game. I think will win. It's going to be a hell of a game, so we'll see what happens there. I'll dive into some of Nolan's notes here. His first note says tempo, tempo, tempo. Pretty much talking about how Florida State is top 10 in plays per game and how Miami is bottom third. So if Florida State can kind of run like a Josh Heupel type offense where they're go, 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 get yards on first down and be able to tire out that Miami defensive line, I think that'll bode well for them. So that's a key for them. Second note he has is the environment down there in Miami. Even though they're not the raucous college crowd like you see, in a college town, there'll be a damn full and packed stadium there in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium, and that will definitely play into Miami's hands. Now I think this is at Florida State. I had that backwards. This is in Tallahassee. Excuse me, I read that wrong. That will play into Florida State's hands, as we saw in week 1. So that's always a tough place to play when they get to the tomahawk chop going. So we'll see if Miami will have any struggles with that because they haven't really, handled that at all this season whatsoever.
Well, on that note, though, Beck, in his career, Beck does struggle more on the road.
Correct. Yes.
By like a large amount than what he does at home. And his last 3 games, he's got 3 interceptions. So he's got 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in his last 3 games. So this is a big answer for him to answer a lot of critics and show that he can still put some zip on the ball and get things going when the going does get tough and in a hostile environment.
Mm-hmm. And Nolan's got a good note here. Miami huddles every time, it seems like. So if the crowd gets loud, they can kind of disrupt that huddle and make it tougher for them when they get up to the line to be able to make any adjustments they need once they get up to the line of scrimmage and see what the defense is doing. The other 2 notes Nolan has in here is kind of strength on strength. Obviously, we're going to look at what Florida State's offense can do versus Miami defense. That's the strength on strength for both teams. And then the weakness on weakness he has here is Florida State's defense versus Miami's offense. Will Florida State be able to disrupt Carson Beck and those receivers and running backs at all, or will Miami be able to have their way, which they've kind of done to every team they played this season? So we'll see. That's kind of the spark notes for Nolan's. I could have gone for 30 more minutes, but I think we covered it really good from that point.
Ron, is there anything left about that?
Great content, guys, and kudos to Nolan. I know he this is a game he's hopefully going to get to watch with all the plans he has this weekend. But
good thing for him, the wedding is tomorrow night, not Saturday.
Oh, good. Okay, I didn't know that. Well, good. I think there's a couple keys here in this game. A great top 25 matchup between 2 fantastic ACC teams. Full disclosure, though, I'm kicking myself for taking Clemson to win the ACC back in August.
Aren't we all?
So
one of these 2 teams, most likely the winner of this game, will probably win the ACC.
What's wild about that real quick? You're talking about the Clemson winning the ACC.
Yep.
When we did our ACC win totals, the last episode on part 2, every episode on part 2, we would go around and be like, okay, who's your conference winner? Everybody picked Clemson. My dumbass picked Miami in that episode, and we come back 4 weeks later on our Book It segment, season bets, and I'm fully back invested in Clemson's bullshit. So if I could have just stood my ground and tried to do some convincing, but who are we kidding? Clemson still has the most NFL talented roster. They just don't win football games. Sorry.
Yeah, and that kind of is a great segue to two of my comments I wanted to make real quick before we move on. Miami's loaded with talent. They got a great they win the games at the scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Here's what's interesting. Florida State's number 2 in the country in rushing. Obviously, with Sawchek and Castellanos combined, they're almost 500 yards combined. But Miami's run defense is top 10 in the country in run against the run success. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. Who's going to win that? Is it going to be Florida State's running game or Miami's run defense? And Florida State, I'm sorry, if Miami's going to end up winning this game, they got to contain Castellanos. You can't let him outside the pocket because that's, I think, a way Florida State could upset them here.
Kind of the same thing as what we talked about with Pavia. Whenever you're rushing the quarterback here, you want to rush from the outside in, not the inside out. The Castellanos gets loose on the outside, it's trouble.
It's trouble. Yeah.
He's kind of the same thing, dude. He's not a read a defense type of guy. He's a take the yards that you can get, first read option. If not, he's using his legs and playing some hero ball. Miami's trenches, we've said it since week 1, maybe even before the season started. They have the best lines of scrimmage in the country. You touched on that, Ron. You're 100% right. As a whole, it's incredible. Also, who I think is a true X factor in this football game is Malachi Toney. Talked about him 3 weeks ago. The dude's a true freshman and an absolute monster at receiver for Miami. If you don't know his name, get to know his name. He's very Tyreek Hill-esque in my opinion. I think this dude's a monster, and Carson Beck is going to look for him. And this dude can torch any defense. For a freshman, runs some of the cleanest routes you'll ever see as a freshman run in the country. So watch him in this football game. And I hope Florida State's pass defense can hold up for no one's sake and make Beck really earn it. But, yeah, Beck on the road is a question, and I think he's going to look to answer a lot of questions here. I don't know what to do in this football game. I could see this going 7 different directions.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun.
The safest bets for me, if I was somebody, would be Florida State money line or Miami alt spread like -10. Miami's I could see Miami beating them up and down the field. If not, Florida State's going to win this football game. That would be my safest bets.
Best game of the weekend,
though. This is a tough one to read, but yeah, you're right, Ron. This is probably the most anticipated game, of the weekend for sure. Prime time on Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I was 100% on my A game, I would go into a full-blown mental breakdown here about why college football plays the biggest games at the same times all the time. Like, I would go full in depth about why that pisses me off. You see it every week, and we have it again this week, but not 100%, so I'm not going to go into that. I'll save that for next week whenever hopefully I can get the jaw moving. I'm sure you guys are looking forward to me talking nonstop again. That is all we have for the main game breakdowns here. Let's go ahead and get into the quickie segments. Ron's going to take both my quickie games tonight and keep me relieved. So thanks, Ron, for doing that. And you're right up off the rip here. Iowa State at Cincinnati. Cincy -1.5, over under 52.5. This game Saturday at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. Iowa State looking to go 6-0. Cincy arguably could be undefeated at this point, but they're 3-1. Ron, tell me what you're looking for here. Give it to us quick.
Well, real quick, I saw the line on Monday. I'm like, wait, Iowa State's plus money? They got a slew of injuries. That's the big note there for you gamblers. There's a ton of injuries at defensive in the secondary, at wide receiver. Their kicker and punter, they're both banged up. I think Cincy, they're basically one play away from being undefeated. So that's you could potentially have 2 undefeated teams here in this matchup. I think it's going to be a great game. I give a slight edge to Cincinnati, but I ended up taking Iowa State in the points.
But, yeah, this is a very underrated football game. And with Iowa State's secondary issues and their 2 cornerbacks being hurt, having no kicker, no punter, Cincinnati, Brennan Sorsby is really good, and he could pick on this Iowa State secondary. I mean, at first glance you want to take Iowa State, but it's scary when you break it down.
And it'll be nice if Big Citrus can be back for them. I don't know if he's going to suit up or not, but
Big Citrus.
He's a key to them.
Dominic Big Citrus Orange. What a name that is.
Almost as good as Dante Corleone, right?
Yeah, Dante Corleone, if he's back for Cincinnati's defensive line, it looks like he's going to be a go. That's a game wrecker in himself right there.
Yep.
The next quickie that we have here is going to be Bryant, and it is Boise State at Notre Dame. Notre Dame minus 20.5, over under 65.5. This game Saturday at 2:30 p.m. on NBC. Bryant, what do you got here, buddy?
I really do think this game is probably a playoff eliminator. I think Boise State's still in the conversation. Notre Dame for sure. I think if either team loses this game, which obviously one of either team will, I think they're done for their playoff hopes. So we'll see what happens there. Notre Dame, I think, is quite obviously the better team on paper. They've seemed to look the part, especially last week. But Boise State has played a lot better ever since that week 1 blunder against USF. They're passing over 300 yards per game, and they have 5+ yards per carry in the 3 games since then. So we'll see if they can continue that. I think Notre Dame just needs to lead on their 2 running backs. CJ Carr just facilitate like he has in recent weeks, and then be prepared on defense for whatever Maddox Maxson and the offensive coordinator at Boise State throws them, and I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, look for Notre Dame to get some style points here. Big-time style points. They need them moving forward. The next quickie that we have for you guys tonight is Virginia at Louisville. Louisville minus 6.5, over under 62.5. Saturday, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN2. Virginia, 4-1, looking like a pretty damn salty football team. Louisville, 4-0, has a near miss last week. Squeaks one out and gets the dub and does what they need to do to win a football game. Ron, what are you looking for in this football game? We need Miller Moss to be a little bit better and Jeff Brom to coach Miller Moss into being a little bit better. That's what I see here mostly.
Yeah, Miller Moss is I had a lot of expectations coming over to Louisville, but he hasn't played that great. 5 touchdowns, 3 picks on the year. Not very, very exciting there. But Virginia made some noise last week. It's going to be interesting to see how they rebound or how they react and if they can continue that momentum. Sometimes that big win like they had last week at Florida State is right for a letdown the following week. So Louisville, good team. Chris Bell's been he'll probably be the X factor in this game. I think the key for Louisville is they're going to have to contain that Virginia rushing attack. And again, I think it's all going to come down to whether or not Virginia can carry that momentum or if they're going to come in a little overconfident and Louisville's going to come out with a win.
Speaking of guys that have been doing it for a long time, Chandler Morris, and he has looked the part so far for Virginia this year, looking like a guy that can lead a football team. So need Louisville's defense to step up and be big time in this football game for them to have a real chance, especially at home. The last quickie game we have for you all tonight is Texas Tech at Houston. Texas Tech minus 11.5. That line is down to 10 now. Over under 50.5. This game Saturday, 6 p.m. ESPN. Texas Tech's looking the part, boys. They're 4-0. The transfer portal is looking like they nailed it in every aspect. Houston, hey, off to a rocking start for them. 4 undefeated as well. Bryant, what do you have for this football game, man?
This is a quality matchup here between 2 Big 12 unbeatens. Going to probably push one team ahead of the other as far as the Big 12 pecking order, so we'll see what happens. On the Houston side, man, they barely beat Oregon State last week, and Oregon State is not good whatsoever. And we just saw a few weeks ago Texas Tech obliterated them. So if you're going by common opponents, Texas Tech has a leg up in this game, and they've been playing much better. I think if Houston can protect Wigman, they should be able to have some success in this game a little bit, but they have not been able to do that whatsoever, and this is probably the best defensive line they've played. So look for that if you're watching this game. And then on Texas Tech side, we actually might have a little bit of a quarterback. I wouldn't call it competition, but there's a question mark there. Will Hammond came in last week and played really good. Baron Morton, I think, is a little bit banged up, so we'll see who plays for them. But looking at what Will Hammond did last week, I'm not going to be worried if he's playing, especially if Baron Morton still plays. He's obviously really good too. So we'll see which quarterback they roll out there in Houston. But I got my last note on this game. Hot take. I think Texas Tech wins this game big.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. And I think this is where Houston's not necessarily luck, but the love of their start just kind of comes to a crash and burn here.
Mm-hmm.
Fellas, any other games that we want to talk about here before we move on to this rockin' hot book it, fade it segment? Nothing? All right, fellas.
Good.
Let's go ahead and get on with this thing then. Last week, talked about it earlier, went 7-4. We got this thing back on the rails, and I believe we are, 24-28 now. We got this thing back in contention, looking respectable at this point, and we're looking to really grow on that this week. The Kansas and USC loss last week, felt like they had a chance. I felt like I would bet it the same way again on those two games. Honestly, I really would. Washington, the injuries killed them, and the Arkansas +6 loss. I'm okay with that loss. We talked about that. We talked about that for the last 5 weeks, literally. If we're going to lose, we had some of the worst beats I've ever seen constantly, week in and week out, over and over. It put me out of my misery in the second quarter. That's awesome. That's what I wanted to see.
That's a good beat, right? Not a bad beat.
Just for wrong about that one.
We finally had some luck go our way this past week with some of these games. I mean, I think we only covered by a half a point or 1 or 2, and like 3 or 4 are the ones we won. So let's hope that continues.
Beautiful.
The luck stays on our side.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's what we want. That's what we're looking for, Bryant. Okay. So this week on the Book It segment, I'm going to let Ron and Bryant go over the picks and do the talking on those. I'm going to obviously sit it out. But the one thing that I want to say before we do this that helps you win games when it comes to betting is, hey, shop the books and buy the hooks, baby. Always buy the hook point, half point, and shop the books. If you don't like what you're getting at DraftKings, go to FanDuel. If you don't like what you're getting at FanDuel, go to ESPN Bet. Go to Bet365. Go to Circa. There's 800,000 books, I feel like, that you can go shop at, get the best odds, and get the best points, and make yourself have the upper hand. So, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you, man. Go ahead and dive into our picks this week for us.
And we got 13 on the docket for you this week. We liked a lot of games. We had to narrow it down a little bit, but we're going to roll with what we have with these 13. Our first game, we got Vanderbilt and Bama. We talked about that game a lot on the show earlier. We like the over in this game at 55 there in Tuscaloosa. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, so we're going to go ahead and book that one right there. Our next game, we got Western Kentucky at Delaware. This is a highly anticipated matchup this weekend against the Hilltoppers in Delaware. We're taking Western Kentucky +3. Ron, what are we going to do with that game right there?
I mean, when you say Delaware, I think it's a lacrosse school. So Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, I think they cover that large.
Hey, I think it's the Fighting Blue Hens for Delaware.
The Blue Hens.
That is elite. You know, I might have to switch up just because of that mascot. That scares me.
Also,
Fighting Blue Hens.
All the Delaware fans hate Bryant from what he said 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I've talked a lot of shit on their team.
I know you have.
They're not going to get it done. They are not going to get it done this week.
So, the next one is Clemson at North Carolina. Clemson team total 29.5. Now, I know some of you savvy gamblers are going to say, well, Clemson hasn't scored over 27 in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, they haven't. But North Carolina, Belichick, what are you doing over there? He doesn't stand a chance. I say Clemson team total 29.5 over, book it. And then the next one, Virginia at Louisville. We just talked about that game. We gave you all the reasons why. We're all pretty confident that Louisville is going to cover that 6. Again, bought the hook off. Keep that in mind. Shop the books, buy the hooks. Brian, back to you.
Absolutely. Boise State Notre Dame is our next game. Hey, Notre Dame needs style points, so we're going to take the team total over 40.5. They're going to put up a lot of points in this game. Boise State cannot stop a nosebleed on defense, so Notre Dame is going to roll, and they're going to score a bunch of points, so we're going to book that right there.
Real quick, Brian, before you go on to the next one, just so we clear this up on the buy and the hooks. On team totals, you cannot buy the hooks. Just clear it up. You have to have a half point on team totals. Go ahead, Brian.
Correct. Next game is also a team total. We got Kent State at Oklahoma. Kent State is the entire opposite of a powerhouse, and they're playing one of the better defenses in the country in Oklahoma. So we're taking Kent State team total under 8.5 points. So we're looking to see if they can put any points up in this game. We don't see it, so we're going to take the under.
All right, I'll take the next game. Texas Texas Tech, Houston over 52. We talked about this game in our earlier segment. Big 12, all offense, no defense. You're going to see a ton of points in this game. Look for Texas Tech to also win that game big. And then Wake Forest at Virginia Tech. Do we need to talk much about Virginia Tech? That whole program has been in a shambles over there. Wake Forest looked good last weekend. We like Wake Forest +7.
The only thing – I love Wake Forest +7. It's the only thing that ever crosses my mind with this play right here is anytime a team loses a coach, sometimes it can light a fire, a.k.a. Virginia Tech. But, fellas, I just don't see it. Why should anybody be scared of Virginia Tech? The only thing they should be scared of if you're Wake Forest is Virginia Tech's intro. Other than that, nothing with you there.
Yep.
Yeah, Wake Forest has played good. I like that pick. Our next game, we're right back to the Texas Tech at Houston game. I mentioned it in my little quickie. I think Texas Tech rolls big in this game, and Colin followed me. So we're going to take Texas Tech -10. Like this pick a lot. I think they're on paper the better team by far. So we'll see if they continue the hot play and go take care of business down in Houston. Our next game is Army at UAB, which is Alabama Birmingham. The Blazers, they got the football program back a few years ago. Have been playing well, and they're doing decent this season. I personally think they're probably the better team, if not quite a bit better than Army. And they're a home dog against a Army team with the worst record. So we're going to take UAB +8 at home and see if they can get it done. Like that pick. So we're going to
Trent Dilfer, baby. Trent Dilfer.
Yes.
Ron, you got the next one?
Next one, Texas at Florida. We spent a ton of time on this game earlier in the show. Texas just has such a better defense. Florida's got a lot of question marks on offense. We like Texas to cover the 4. Syracuse, SMU. Syracuse did lose their starting quarterback, as you guys know, but neither one of these teams have a defense. SMU's got Kevin Jennings and some talent around him. Typically, they are always in a shootout. We love the over 56 in that game.
Absolutely.
Ryan, take the last one.
I will take the last one. We got Michigan State and Nebraska over 48. This might shock a little bit of some people taking the over in this game. Both teams have not been able to really score the ball that well. But Nebraska's got to at some point. We still got belief in Dylan Raiola that he can put up some points. And Michigan State is not bad on offense either. They just haven't been able to get it going. So let's see if both teams can get it going in this game and score some points. So our last pick of the Book It segment for Week 6, we have Nebraska, Michigan State over 48. Book it.
Hey, fellas, fantastic job on that. Thank you guys for taking that over this week. Hey, like we said, our new catchphrase, baby. This is how you get better. Shop the books and buy the hooks. The Book It /Faded segment is making a comeback. Like we said last week when we joked and we were down bad. Hey, when the going gets tough, spray the board. Don't stop. Don't bet less. Bet more. Hey, get even or get even worse, baby. That's how we do things here at Deep Threat Sports Network. Don't forget it. Shop the books, buy the hooks, book it. Hey, fellas, fantastic episode. Anything else you guys want to cover before we get out of here, before Week 6 begins? I think we have football games on tonight, by the way.
Nope,
I'm ready for this weekend on tonight. We got Sam Houston on tonight. We got to tune into that one.
Yeah, it's Sam Houston, New Mexico State.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Play New Mexico State. If you're watching and you can get a live bet in right now, play New Mexico State. I'm confident in that as well. Not going to book it, but New Mexico State, play of the day. All right, fellas. Hey, I appreciate you guys stepping up big time this week, taking things over for me, and really managing the workload here. You guys did a fantastic job all week long. Glad to have Ron with us. Glad to have Bryant taking the reins as usual. That guy is reliable as it gets.
Hey, Colin, we got to get you healthy. We got a big game in Como next weekend.
Hey,
yes,
I'm hoping to be back full go and mouth running like usual come next week. I'm hoping my mouth's sore next week just from talking so damn much. Not from all this other horse shit I got going on. So, fellas, I appreciate all the hard work and dedication. And, hey, make sure you're telling your friends, your family. College football is full bore right now, and Deep Threat Sports Network is making a hell of a comeback on that Book It segment to make you guys some money like we did last year. You can follow us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify at Deep Threat Sports, X, DT_sports_, Facebook, Deep Threat Sports Network. Hey, that's Ron, Bryant. I'm Colin. Until next time, fellas. Peace.
How